We recently discussed accessorial charges from a high level in some of our recent content. But today, we're going to break down one of the most commonly disputed charges in brokerage and transportation, the truck order not used, or TONU. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Nate with Freight 360, and in this week's video, we're going to be dissecting the TONU, or truck order not used. If you can't tell, I'm getting super excited for bill season. I'm back again with Bills gear this week. If you're new to our channel, please don't forget, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and hit that little notification icon down below to make sure you stay up to date on our latest content. As we've covered in the past, a TONU, short for truck order not used, is an accessorial charge paid to a driver for their time when a load is canceled on them for a variety of reasons. The load could have been delayed until a later day. You might have two drivers that are double booked on the same load, or perhaps the shipment was canceled altogether by your shipper. Regardless of any of these circumstances, the TONU is intended to compensate a driver for their time spent on the load, even though it wasn't picked up. Drivers like to be compensated for loads that are canceled on them since they feel they missed out on the potential to earn money from that load. The tricky part here is to determine, where do you draw the line when you're paying a TONU? There's a difference between a load being canceled an hour before pickup and a load being canceled a couple days ahead of the pickup. I'm gonna lay out three situations in this video. The first one is gonna be where a TONU should definitely be paid. The next one is where it shouldn't be paid. And the third one, well, that falls into the situation that I just like to call messy. It's kind of a gray area. All right, situation number one, pay the TONU. Let's say it's Tuesday. You book a driver for a pickup tomorrow morning, Wednesday, at 10 o'clock in the morning. The rate confirmation is sent and it's signed. You tell your driver to call you the next morning when they're on their way to the pickup. All is good. Next morning, you get started up with work. Your driver calls you at 8:30 in the morning and they let you know, hey, I'm all empty with my last delivery and I'm on my way to pick up your shipment for your customer. 9 o'clock rolls around, you get a call from your customer. They tell you, sorry, the shipment's been delayed until next week. Something's missing or something's going on. Now you've got to call your driver and cancel that load on them, and it's just an hour before the scheduled pickup. They've already started driving to your shipper's facility. This is a great prime example of when a TONU is definitely in order. Your driver was already working for you on your load, and they spent time as well as burned fuel heading to your pickup. The fault here definitely falls on your customer, who you would then expect to pay the TONU of, let's say, $200. The carrier is going to likely ask you for the TONU, and you should verify that with your customer to get the right amount that they typically pay when they cancel a load. You're going to invoice your customer for the $200 TONU, create a new rate confirmation for your driver stating $200, and everybody moves on with life. You as the broker, you don't make any money on this transaction. But what you do is you're ensuring that your driver is fairly compensated for the little bit of time that they spent working on the load that was ultimately canceled by your customer. All right, next example, don't pay the TONU. Now, let's take a different look here. Let's say it's Friday and you need to book a truck for Monday. So it's before the weekend for a load after the weekend. All right, you have a pickup for one of your customers. You talk to a driver who says they can definitely be at your customer's location Monday morning, but first they have to deliver tomorrow, Saturday, and it's gonna be nearby your customer. At that point, they're gonna take their 34-hour reset. Now, you get a call from your customer that same Friday afternoon, let's say. They cancel the Monday shipment. Now you've got to let your driver know that that shipment's no longer available. It was canceled and you don't have another load for them to take on Monday. Your driver might ask for a TONU, but in this situation, it's not really warranted. Now let's break it down and see why. First, the load was canceled multiple days in advance. So your driver hasn't actually done anything for this load. They've got ample time to find another load that suits their desired destination and that rate. They weren't working on your load yet. They're still hauling a load for someone else when you canceled it on them. This is where most brokers will draw the line on whether or not to pay a TONU. Point blank, if a driver is not on your time yet, and by that I mean they're not working on your load, they should not be entitled to a TONU. They're still on someone else's time and someone else's dime, per se. Now, if they had already delivered their last load, but hadn't dispatched to the pickup yet, this might be one of those gray areas and you want to talk to your customer about it. But in this case that we just outlined, the load was canceled 3 days in advance, so no TONU is in order. Lastly, the messy situation. There's a handful of situations where a TONU might be asked of your driver, but your customer refuses to pay it. In these cases, you're gonna have to make a judgment call as the broker in between both parties as to whether or not you feel your driver deserves to be paid a TONU. At the end of the day, if your customer is not gonna pay the TONU, you would be paying out of your own pocket to compensate your driver. This is often done to keep a strong relationship with both your customer and a solid carrier that you feel deserves to be compensated. Let's say you book a carrier and your customer cancels the load 20 minutes later. Your customer likely won't pay the TONU since they canceled the load so quickly. But the driver might have already started driving to your pickup location and turned down another great paying load. It's a tricky gray area, and you might want to pay a small TONU out of your own pocket since the driver did spend some of their own time, even though it was only like 20 minutes. If you were in their shoes, would you feel like you deserved a TONU? It's a really good way to look at it and break it down and put yourself in their shoes. Another example of a messy situation could include your customer changing the shipment weight or maybe adding extra equipment such as it needs tarps, but your driver can't meet those requirements. And when you first talk to them, they didn't even know about those requirements. You've got to put yourself in both parties' shoes and make a judgment call. TONUs, they're not going to go away anytime soon. So be prepared to let down a driver every now and then when they won't be getting the load that they originally wanted. But to keep a good reputation with carriers, make sure you are very proactive about getting TONUs approved as soon as your customer cancels or changes the load on you. This will save you the back and forth with your drivers and your customer, so everyone can move on to the next fire to put out in the freight world. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.